work and balance, people in those types of crises.
Okay, thank you.
How are those calls handled currently?
Everything comes through dispatch. We handle them all from point of, I just need somebody to talk to the ones that are really high risk.
So everything's an officer involvement right now?
Yes.
Chief, thanks.
So if they call 911, but the dispatcher determines that they really need this, will they port them and move them over to the 988? Or once they call 911?
Yes, that's what gives Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, MOU gives them the authorization on our behalf to move those calls to 988 if they meet their criteria.
Okay, so they will move them to the 988, even if they didn't initiate that through 988?
Correct.
And then if they determine that they want to actually have a social worker go on scene, does that always then involve an officer has to be there present?
Potentially. It depends. Every circumstance is different. If it's, like an in-progress event, then yeah, generally speaking, we will respond with them. And they do have people available 24 hours a day. What you kind of get in there is the time delay. It may take them 2 hours. I can't leave an officer sitting at the house for 2 hours. So we kind of got to coordinate those responses appropriately.
Right, I understand the wanting to, I mean, it's become a real issue in society with mental issues and mental health. And you want to not escalate the situation, but on the other hand, we don't want a social worker also being put into a life or death situation when they're not really trained for that. So,
Correct.
okay, well, thank you. Any additional questions, comments? Seeing none, I'd call for the vote.
Gurley?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
McMahon?
Yes.
Blanks?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Kip?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much, Chief. Appreciate the presentation. Are you here for the next one? I'm assuming that's why you're not moving. So we're on to the school resource officer agreement with USD 204.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Billy Knapp, Chief of Police. Have before you tonight is a agreement. It's kind of been a historical practice between a partnership between USD 204 and the City of Bonner Springs to provide school resource officer services to both the Bonner Springs High School and the Bonner Springs Middle School. We have a desire and a benefit to continue that agreement with them, as well as they have a desire and benefit to continue that agreement with us. So we are requesting that authorization for you to initiate this agreement with USD 204, kind of to outline what some of the things do. Based on the agreement, the district will pay 75% of the annual salary of the benefits of a police officer assigned to the district. The district agrees to pay 75% of any increase to pay and benefits to the officer for the term of the agreement. The district is responsible for all overtime requested by them or other expenses that relate to or result from police-related activities. And the district is also responsible for paying 1/2 of the cost of any conferences or training that we deem necessary for the officer to attend.
Okay, with that, does anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Ah, we do have somebody. Look at that. Come on up and state your name and address.
My name is Patricia Wellicke, 414 Outcut Avenue, Bonner Springs, Kansas, 66012. As a former school board member, I would highly suggest that you approve authorization and contract agreement for USD 204 for the School Resource Officer Program because they provide a great service to our district and we feel safer with them in our schools. And so I just encourage you to approve this. And thank you for your service.
Thank you, Ms. Wyaliki. Anyone else wish to speak on it? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to authorize the city manager to execute a contract agreement with USD 204 for the School Resource Officer Program.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Shannon and a second by Mr. McMahon. We'll go ahead and start down there with you, Mr. Shannon. Any questions?
Thank you for coming up and saying what you did because having subbed in the district for a lot of years, it was always excellent to have a resource officer there and have a car out front. It diffuses a lot, and we've had good resource officers in the past which have made inroads, and I thank you as former board member for okaying that and Chief for wanting to continue this valuable service, so thank you.
Great program, thanks for continuing it.
Absolutely. Is this a full-time position for this officer?
Yes.
Mr. McMahon?
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's a shame we have to have a police officer at a school, right? But I'm glad we have the resources to do it.
Ms. Blanks?
What are some of the incidents that they have to come across day to day?
Obviously, there's the potential for altercations within the school. There is substance abuse that commonly occurs, that the officers seem to be dealing with quite a bit, whether that be tobacco or illicit narcotics. But really, they kind of function as an extension of a social worker, so to speak. They develop these relationships with the kids, and they're able to work through a lot of the problems before they become bigger problems. So that's really what he spends most of his day trying to deal with. Obviously, from our perspective, the intelligence part of that information is tremendous for us, that he's able to gather and provide to us for investigation purposes.
Awesome, thank you. I think it's a great program.
No questions, thanks.
Nothing else.
Appreciate the presentation, Chief. This is a program we've had going on now for what? How many years we've done this?
I asked Tilly, and she didn't know, so
I
that
couldn't
tells
remember
you.
it either. I think it even predates Mr. Peterson, too. I think we had this shortly before he came on board, so. This is a very similar agreement to what we've done in the past. And so who is the current?
It is Mr., now that you asked me, it's a new one.
Put you on the spot. Is it Watson? I was wondering if it was Watson. And he will continue next year as well.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the new principal.
Oh,
Yeah, no, Officer Watson.
Oh. Okay. Well, with that, if there's no other questions or, what, do we have something else, Mr. Shannon? Oh, I saw you go for your mic, so
Oh, I was getting prepared.
I will call for the vote.
Shannon?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
Kip?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
McMahon?
Yes.
Blanks?
Yes.
Gurley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Chief, appreciate it. On to item number 7, BSZO 01-24, Unified Development Ordinance Amendment, Accessory Building Limitations. I will mention that this did have a public hearing at the Planning Commission meeting on June 25th, so we will not be accepting any outside public testimony here this evening. It'll be strictly staff and us. So, Mr. Lee?
Microphone. Thank you.
Just don't do what the chief did.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Mark Lee, Community Development Director. This item in front of you is, really it's an exact copy of what we had in our old zoning regulations. When we adopted the new Unified Development Ordinance, they kind of reverted back to a lot coverage, which we have found through dealing with a few permits that it can still allow for a larger building than would be considered accessory. It's really hard at the staff level to explain that to an individual, so it's much easier to say this is the square footage you're limited to, or this is the maximum you can have. So we put those sizes back into the zoning districts as they were a couple years ago.
Did it?
Yeah.
All right, so with that, I would ask for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt an ordinance approving the amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance regarding size limitations placed on residential accessory structures.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Reeves, a second by Ms. Long. We'll go ahead and start down there with you, Mr. Reeves. Any comments, questions, concerns?
Yeah, I was trying to read through this here, and it's difficult to see on this because the area is so small, I can't get the whole thing in there. My question is, size limitations, is that also based on not just the house size, but it's on the lot size also?
It would be, but there was always language in there that said they shall not be larger than the principal structure, but it was always hard to determine that. But yes, that it is based on the lot size.
So if you, let's say that you've got an area where you've got 2 or 3 acres and you've got a house that's 4,000 square feet, you couldn't have another structure on there larger than that?
Correct.
Wow, that's,
Because that makes your house no longer accessory, or it makes your house no longer primary if your accessory building's larger than your house. Now, there is some allowances for agricultural properties in there. Yes,
okay.
yes, there's still those buildings can be expansive. 10,000 square feet, I think, is pretty much
Okay,
the
I was
maximum.
just about ready to vote no.
No. We had the variance come up just shortly after we adopted them in January of 2022 or 21, I think. We had a variance come up out of that, and so then we went back and adjusted them based off of that variance. So these regulations are actually the second iteration. That makes sense.
Okay.
Ms. Long? Ms. Monks?
No questions. Thanks, Mark.
Mr. McMahon?
None.
Mr. Gurley? Mr. Kipp? Mr. Shannon? I've got nothing to really add to the conversation either, so with that, we'll go ahead and call for a vote.
Long,
Yes.
Blanks,
Yes.
Gurley, yes, Reeves,
I will change my vote to yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
McMahon,
Yes.
Kip,
Yes.
motion passes.
On to item number 8, BSZO 02-24, Unified Development Ordinance Amendment for Table of Allowed Uses Amendments.
Sir. Mark Lee again, Mr. Mayor, council members. This ordinance, or this amendment addresses some, I don't want to say missing elements, but there were some things as we kind of worked through this table of uses since it's been in place that some, I personally thought were missing, mostly in the mixed commercial areas and how some of the uses wouldn't be allowed. There was even a couple, as I started to look through it, that wouldn't allow for things we currently have downtown, like a drive-through. Dairy Queen wouldn't be allowed technically by the zoning. So there were some things that I went through and tried to match up and make them either correspond with what we had in the past, or there was some new uses that we had to kind of fit into. Mainly, it addressed mixed commercial was a lot of where it was missing. So if you have residential and commercial in the same area, I think I'm just gonna throw this out, a farmer's market, you couldn't have a farmer's market in an area like that. So I mean, there was just some simple things, I mean, even a medical clinic. So if you had a housing and commercial all in this kind of area, a medical clinic wouldn't be allowed. So there was just kind of some odd things that I thought as I worked through it, and that's what's in the ordinance this evening.
Thank you. And just like in the past, just like the previous item, this had a public hearing at the Planning Commission on June 25th. So we will not be taking any public comments. So with that, I would accept a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt an ordinance approving the amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance Table of Allowed Uses.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Blanks and a second by Mr. McMahon. And we'll go ahead and start with you, Mr. McMahon. Any
No questions.
comments? Ms. Gurley?
Nothing.
Mr. Kipp?
Nothing.
Mr. Shannon?
Mark, thank you for cleaning that up. Appreciate it.
Ms. Blanks?
No questions. Thanks for digging into all that.
Ms. Long?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Reeves?
No questions.
And I have nothing to ask myself, so with that, I will call for a vote.
Kip,
Yes.
Gurley, yes, Reeves,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
McMahon,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Blanks,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you all.
On to item number 9. And before I start on that, I just want to make sure our two candidates are aware this is not normally how long our meetings usually go, but you picked a heck of a meeting to come and talk. On to item number 9, 138th Street Project, resolution for authority to award the contract.
Just by way of introduction, this is oddly, given our presentation earlier today, this is one of the low-hanging fruit items that was on the list there. So this is a contract to twofold. One, move forward with awarding a bid that was actually solicited by KDOT for 138th Street in a total amount of about $4.2 million. The other part of this is actually setting aside, this is an 80-20 match, so we are actually only paying 20% of that total project cost. We also have some additional funds that need to go towards the relocation of a gas main that's in that location as well, as you may recall. So, again, twofold sort of item here. Justin, our city engineer, is also here to answer any questions or offer any other commentary on the project. This is a long project in the making. I think it's probably 7 years in the making, so.
Would you like to add anything to?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Justin Clout, City Engineer. No, I'm ready to get the project built. It's been a long time.
Well, with that then, anybody from the public would like to comment on it? Seeing none, I would accept a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to award the contract and commit city funds for improvement to 138th Street in the amount of $1,190,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Gurley, and I'll go with second by Mr. McMahon. And with that, we'll go ahead and start here with you, Ms. Blanks. Any comments, questions?
No questions. Thank you for your work on it.
No questions, thank you.
Nothing here.
Look forward for completion.
What do we know about VF Anderson Builders?
I've actually worked with them. They've built a couple of other projects that I've designed throughout the metro area. They are a pre-qualified KDOT contractor, so they did have to go through that process.
If there's any problems in construction, where would the responsibility lie with them, or how is that handled since we were not the ones that approved the bid or approved the construction?
So KDOT administers the project.
Right.
Wilson and Company will be doing the construction inspection on the project, so we'll be out there full-time doing material testing and making sure that it's built in accordance with the city's specifications and also KDOT specifications.
Okay, and also if there's any additional cost, which is Mr. Reeves' favorite thing, would that still be at the 80/20?
Yes.
Okay.
I might ask, I know in the document, they have a timeline they want to get started, hopefully maybe in February. Have they set out any information yet on how they plan on attacking it? Because I know at one time it was talked about being done in like 3 different phases through there because of the access points and such.
Right. We put together a phasing plan to maintain access not only to the school but the businesses, the residents. The contractor does have the option to change that if they want. One thing we did decide is to start construction in the spring rather than tear up the road, shut down for winter, and have it torn up all winter. So I think this will make for a smoother project with less headaches. As far as how they plan to tackle the project, we'll have a pre-construction meeting before it starts. I don't know that yet.
Gotcha. And just one little comment, it was apropos that you all nicely let Ms. Gurley make the motion, since she's probably going to be most affected by this thing, so inconvenienced by it.
Can I throw the first shovel?
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, I'd call for a vote.
McMahon,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Blanks,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
Hip,
Yes.
Gurley,
Yes.
Reeves.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Then on to item number 10. Thank you very much, Justin. On to item number 10, notice of intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate. Staff?
Tilly LaPlante, Finance Director. Before you tonight is a motion authorizing, excuse me, city staff to notify the county clerks of the 3 counties of the city's intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate, maintaining the current mill levy rate, and setting a public hearing for August 26th to hear comments on exceeding the revenue neutral rate. This hearing the notice would set the maximum rate at the current rate, and the hearing, the estimated taxes to be generated would be 500,000. Once that hearing is done and a budget hearing happens, that rate and the tax dollars can be lowered. So this is just requesting to notify the county that the city does intend to exceed the revenue neutral rate and hold the hearing to hear comments on that. Stand for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. LaPlante. With that, is there anybody from the public who wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion authorizing city staff to notify the county clerk of the city's intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate, maintaining the current mill levy rate of 39.871, and set a public hearing for August 26, 2024, to hear the comments on exceeding the revenue neutral rate.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Shannon and a second by Ms. Blanks. We'll go ahead and start down there with you, Mr. Reeves. Any comments, questions, concerns?
Yeah, I'd just like to.
We'll go ahead and go with this, Mr. Reeves, yes.
I thought you said Mr. Reeves.
He's just looking at it.
Go ahead.
To reiterate a little bit, that by doing this, this isn't set that we actually have to use it, right? We just,
Correct. This just sets that the maximum is the current mill levy rate. We couldn't go above that rate, but we could go below it.
and this was the rate last year, so I don't understand how come we're exceeding anything.
You're
if the rate's-
exceeding, so the county gives us a revenue neutral rate, which drops the
Okay.
rate to generate the same tax dollars as this year. So if you go revenue neutral, you
Okay,
can't
so they said it
exceed
at like 36 something.
Yes.
Okay, that's their arbitrary.
Well, it's a
figure.
calculation to get, based on our new valuations, to get to the same tax dollars that we had this year.
So at what point then could we, if we decide that we're not using, could we reduce that, which will help our patrons then with their taxes?
Yes, that can be done during the, during the budget hearings, and so we won't have the hearings until August and the budget hearing in September. So you have during that time to decide, at what level you want to drop it if you want to.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Tilly.
Ms. Blanks?
No questions. Thanks for your work.
Mr. McMahon?
No questions.
Mr. Kipp? There's a lot of questions in the workshop, wasn't there? But, yeah, I think it's important to understand that this does not set the mill levy at that 39.871. It just gives the council as a whole flexibility as we move in through the budget process of determining where we want to adjust numbers. Do we need to drop some numbers? In other words, it doesn't lock us into potentially having to cut potential services, as well as if we don't have the public meeting and we lock the revenue neutral, then it puts pressure on staff as well as council to make some hard decisions within a very short little window of, about 3 weeks, 4 weeks? So this gives us flexibility, even if we go revenue neutral in a month and a half, this still gives us that time to absorb everything we saw this evening, additional information that will be coming forth, and then we can make those decisions. So if there's no other comments, questions, or concerns, we call for a vote.
Blanks?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
Gurley?
Yes.
McMahon?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Kipp?
No.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. LaPlante. On to item number 11, we have an executive session for non-elected personnel matters pursuant to exception KSA 75-4319B1. Would somebody like to make a motion, and how long do you think will be?
15?
15 minutes, and who will be in there with us on this one? Is it just going to be council?
Yeah, me.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to go into executive session to discuss non-elected personnel matters pursuant to exception KSA 75-4319B1. The open meeting will resume in the council chambers at 9:40.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Gurley, a second by Mr. Shannon. I'll just call for a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. So we'll be back in about 15 or
You're
20.
working a lot better. You're doing a good job of pumping it up and down.
Plan, but the city has also put in for some additional funding through Mark to actually do a walkability study. So this gets a little bit more in-depth with trails and sidewalks throughout the community. I think, as we all know, this is continuing to be a major factor, consideration point, what have you, in terms of feedback we're getting from the community. So this would be assembling all the different routes, gaps, and connection points for our sidewalks and trails. There is a feedback page right now through Mark to actually helps us get funding for the project, so this is a competitive process, so that is linked in the city manager report. I do want to point out the World Cup Readiness Task Force for Wyandotte County. There is a interest form linked on this city manager report that goes into different types of activities or groups you can be part of. So if you do have an interest in participating in that, please fill out the form. And then lastly, I do want to make note there will be a information session on July 18th from 3 to 7 p.m. Here at City Hall about flood risk. This is in particular looking at Spring Creek. So this is something that we've been working on with the Corps and city staff and others. But this is, I think, a helpful event to at least start to have a conversation about flood risk along that drainage area.
On the 18th, at what time?
18th at 3 p.m. to 7 p.m.
I think Mr. Lee mentioned that there was going to be a presentation at 4 o'clock and
4 and 6, I believe. Yep.
Yeah, I think 4 and 6.
Yep. So there'll be 2 opportunities. There's some more information on our city website. I think we put it out on our city newsletter that just went out as well. But if you need any more information, please reach out to Mark Lee and he can get you that. That is all I have.
Okay, well, go ahead and start down here with you, Mr. Shannon.
Oh, on the, Sean, on the off-ramp going south off of K7 onto Front Street, KDOT's, looks like they're trying to grow crops out there, you know. And also, we have a pretty good pothole that I've managed to hit twice on Metropolitan between Lakewood and Nettleton. It's not real big, but
It's deep.
yeah. Went fishing. Guys, I'm sorry, that's it.
I just wanted to thank everybody who was involved in the Bonner Blast. We had enormous crowds and good weather. It was a lot of fun, so thank you to everybody.
Mr. McMahon? Ms. Mikes?
What Danny said, Bonner Blast was a really big success. All the food trucks did really well. People we talked to had a really good time. The band sounded great, and the firework display was awesome. So shout out to Megan and Frank Fogan stepped in and helped Megan and I out when he saw a need for it that day. So thank you to Frank. And then also Country Stampede went really well. I was able to attend 2 days and made sure to chat with our police on site throughout the evening, and it sounded like everything from their standpoint was going really well. So I'm just happy that us as a community and as a city and as businesses were able to welcome Stampede into Bonner. And after chatting with Stampede as a recap, they also saw it as a success and are looking forward to future years and working with the city. So thank you.
Mr. Reeves?
Yeah, Cemetery Road, are we gonna be able to do anything with that this next year? The back road there, there's a place where you can't hardly get through it, especially if it rains a little bit.
Oh, okay. I will check.
That, and I mentioned also that they didn't get the flags up on the 4th, but I'm guessing that was because of all the weather that was happening, maybe. I don't know what happened to the flags on the 4th.
Yes.
Okay. And then Roger already mentioned the pothole. It's on the flat area as you come down that hill, about halfway down, it levels out, and there's a pothole there as you're coming up the hill, so it's on the south side. Yep. That's it. I'm done.
Okay, I'll keep it really quick, see if we can get out of here before 10. Real quickly, I just want to mention about Bonner Blast as well. First of all, I did want to mention about the VFW presenting the colors on band night. It was, we are so fortunate to have that local VFW that likes to participate. Secondly, we have a couple of our band members here, and they did I know they won't say it about themselves, but they did a phenomenal job. I will tell you there was a couple MCs there, but the band did a wonderful job. So, with that said, if there's nothing else, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we adjourn at this time.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Reeves, a second by Ms. Blanks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion adjourned. Or motion adjourned. We are adjourned.